How squatters, they took over a Beverly Hills mansion just down the street from LeBron James' home. Let's get into it. Here we go. You know what? Let's be honest. These are not just squatters. These are professional grifters. They're paying. They were getting paid like 30 grand a month renting out rooms. They're having massive house parties. They were charging $100 a head to get in. I mean, these are some big parties in a very nice area of Hollywood. Here's what the house looked like before all the shenanigans. This is a marketing video from 2011. Nice house. Beautiful. That's a closet. All right, you get the idea. At one time, it was a really nice house. $4.5 million for that now. It must just be ripped apart. I love how this article starts out with, "Thanks, liberals." How squatters took over Beverly Hills mansion just down the street. LeBron James. Beverly Grove Place, a small outpost of Beverly Hills, becoming a popular address for the rich and famous. Basketball superstar LeBron James. I'm not a big LeBron fan. I'm not an NBA fan anymore, right? Things just got so woke and you're like, no, I don't think so. Basketball superstar LeBron James is building a house there, and celebrity couple Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck, J-Lo, or Benifer, I believe is the correct reference. They bought a $61 million compound there last year. $61 million. Yeah, I got a quick $20 million down payment. You're writing a big check. Yeah. Yet a bunch of squatters live right down the street from James' new home at 1316 Beverly Grove Place from October 2023 to February 2024. That's a solid run. You got October, November, December, January, February. Almost half a year. These squatters weren't poor Angelenos who couldn't afford rent in one of the most expensive cities in the U.S. They were grifters who saw the opportunity to use a neglected mansion to give the appearance of wealth and throw massive parties. $100 a head is what they were charging. Sometimes $30,000, up to $30,000 a month, just renting out rooms. Hey, we've got a multi-roommate situation here in a multi-million-dollar Beverly Hills home. Why don't you come on over, be part of the party? A January report from The Real Deal said that the 5,900 square foot home was listed for $4.6 million. This home must be absolutely destroyed. Is it $4.6 million? That is not a ton more than land value, right? The fact that they could con their way into the most exclusive zip code in America shows that expensive neighborhoods may also see squatting incidents. We had a squatting incident here in Bellevue that I covered. See if I can find that for you. Yeah, no pay, no stay. Community chants to deadbeat tenant. So that's an article. That's a video that I did this past weekend on a landlord in Bellevue, Washington, just a couple of miles from where I'm sitting. And the tenant is a professional squatter. So the tenants in the squatter incident that I covered, same deal. They're professional squatters. They know what they're doing. They're professional grifters. They know how to work the system. They wait for a long time, and then they bring, one of these services that bails out people from protesters, that kind of thing. They're meant to help people, but they end up continuously helping people who are on the wrong side of this. So, they monkey up the timeline in the courts, and these landlords just can't get them out. So what happened? How did we get here? According to the New York Magazine story, Morgan Gargiulo, an aspiring actor, he created a fake, isn't everybody in Los Angeles, Beverly Hills, aren't they all aspiring actors that work the day shift of whatever barista job they come up with? An aspiring actor created a fake lease, moved into a mansion, and didn't face any legal consequences for his actions. Gargiulo threw wild parties 5 nights a week. He charged between $500 to $1,500 for entry to these dues with rave lights, a Warhol-styled print, and a disco ball. That's all you need. Just get a bunch of rave lights, an Andy Warhol anything, and a disco ball. Disco ball, those lights. Hey, 1979, let's get into it. He put out Moroccan-inspired poofs and rugs downstairs to give the appearance of a lounge. We've got a lounge situation here in the multi-million-dollar home. I'm going to let you in for $1,000. Gargiulo was living there with his fiance and girlfriend. Okay. He had both a fiance and girlfriend. All right. This guy's mover and a shaker, as well as other friends. He even started renting out bedrooms for $150 to $300 a night. Well, that is that's some aggressive Airbnb, right? On a home you don't own. But people who booked the room showed up to find nothing available in the 4-bedroom, 6-bathroom mansion. So he did a little overbooking. I mean, come on. Accounting's hard, that whole thing. At one point, Gargiulo even let people stay there in exchange for cleaning the house. This guy, he's got shenanigans down to a T, doesn't he? Peeved by the late night revelry, the neighbors confronted Gargiulo, who politely informed them that he had a lease. I've got a lease. My name is on a lease. They called the police, got a private investigator to wage a maximum pressure campaign, and went to the press. Yet nothing happened. Because it's one of these things where it's tied up in ownership, and you got this squatter, and he's right in the middle of that. And so people don't know whether the owner is coming or going. This thing's tied up 10 ways from Sunday. It doesn't surprise me that this happened. The fact that this guy jumped in, I mean, he's a real opportunist. The squatters eventually got sued for eviction in January of this year. After it became clear the judge was not going to side with them, they made an agreement with the current owner to leave in February. Isn't that special? Just cutting deals on a house that they've literally just probably trashed. They have committed so many crimes. There's drugs in the driveway. We saw the baggie. That's probably a meth, maybe a Coke bag. I don't know. And then you got those nitric oxide, I think is what they're called, little tiny canisters where you get high by sniffing the gas. I mean, good stuff. I mean, all around solid shenanigans going on here in Beverly Hills. The absence of an owner willing and incentivized to initiate an eviction appears to have allowed Gargiulo and his housemates to enjoy a long stay because it was caught in that ownership. Who owns it? Don't know. Guys in Lebanon. Oh, that's great. The mansion was seized by the court amid a legal battle over its ownership between multiple parties. Its former owner had been indicted in a medical fraud scam, and a judge issued an order to sell the house to pay restitution to victims of the fraud scheme. So this owner, he knew he was going down. Yep, don't care. I'm out of here. Going to Lebanon. I will let them take care of the mess. This is when Gargiulo found it and did a tour. It's unclear how he moved in. He took off some locks, got the locks rekeyed. This guy's obviously somewhat sophisticated to bring as many people in as he did, and for as long as he did, basically make a business out of it. Then every now and then, oh yeah, we're doing a fundraiser for the poor Israelites in Israel, poor people of Israel that got slaughtered. We're doing a fundraiser for them. When a real estate agent with the listing was locked out, he called the cops on the squatters and was told there was nothing that they could do. Gargiulo claimed he had a lease. It was a civil matter. An unnamed movie producer from the neighborhood also called the cops, but Gargiulo showed them a piece of paper with no address, no amount, and no term of agreement. It just had 2 boxes on it, one with his own name and another labeled Landlord in Possession, with the name Giovanni Arcori. I mean, this guy he has balls, right? But, in so many of these instances, the cops won't do anything because they don't know. They don't know who, they're not responsible for knowing who's on title. They're not responsible for knowing who's, legit and who's not. And you see that in so many of these instances, right? So it literally becomes a civil matter. You got to duke it out in the court. While the neighborhood text group chat was blowing up over the news about Garglio's antics, residents heard that someone from the defense attorney's office had been informed about the squatter situation and said, squatters have rights. Oh, that's terrible. One of the signs at the protest I was at was Landlord's Lives Matter. Landlord Lives Matter. Big sign. It's in that video. Pretty funny. Welcome to California, one neighborhood wrote in the group chat. Thanks, liberals. It's so true. Isn't everybody in this neighborhood probably just a really wealthy liberal? I mean, I don't see a lot of conservative people in this type of area, but they're conservative when, their property rights or their neighborhood, all of a sudden, yeah, bring the cops up in here. We've got a matter. You need to take care of this. According to the New York Magazine story, the efforts to convince the court in charge of the mansion that the squatters presented a safety threat were being ignored for reasons that the neighbors couldn't fathom. They had no idea why, if 1316 was the property of the state, California couldn't just evict their tormentors. Because it's caught up in that who nobody knows what the deal is. And, without somebody driving, hey, this is my house, get the F out. Without that person in this mix, these things can drag along for months, and they don't. The court system doesn't really care what the neighbors say. So you found some paraphernalia in the driveway. Hey, welcome to L.A. You know what I mean? Welcome to L.A. I don't really care about that. I mean, we could send some homeless people your way, and you can really mix it up. Though the L.A. County Sheriff's Department says that squatting is illegal in California, really? Who knew? There are adverse possession laws that mean that a squatter can obtain rights in the state. Doesn't that seem like a California thing? Just, if you've been there long enough, the house is yours. If a squatter has lived in a property for 5 years, without being evicted, they have the right to remain there, according to the American Apartment Owners Association. That's terrible. But then again, I mean, who's paying the taxes for 5 years without the thing going sideways? Yeah, there's something to those stories. But Garglio had not been there for that long. In December, the judge returned the mansion to the most recent owner, Adele Yamut. Yamut filed an unlawful detainers lawsuit the following month. Our next segment here is crime in Cali. The neighbors who spoke to the magazine were incensed by the disturbance caused by their squatting neighbors, but they also expressed their frustration with crime. We chose to leave the state of California for many reasons, Fran Solomon told New York Magazine. One of them was the crime rate. Fran and her husband, Rick, live in Florida and rent out their Beverly Grove Place home. More than one neighbor believed the L.A. County District Attorney George Cascone was letting crime run rampant. Absolutely. I mean, we all know this. That's why there was a recall effort, right? Recall effort that he survived. You got a recall on half the politicians in California going on. So Californians leaving for Florida or Texas, that's not uncommon, though it is usually attributed to tax-saving purposes rather than crime. This is where it becomes apparent this is a Yahoo Finance article, because the story goes on to say, this story reveals that crime, or at least the perception of crime, because there's no crime here in California. There's no crime in California. At least the perception of crime may be driving the wealthy out of the Golden State. Everybody knows there's just been wave after wave after wave of crime going on in California. I mean, it's just a known thing. It's been happening all over. It's been happening all over in liberal-run Democrat cities, right? And you've got crime in other places that has gone up, but not at the rates that you're seeing in some of these locations where people are emboldened. These professional squatters, they are emboldened by the fact that they know that if they can get this thing hung up in the court system, what are they going to do? Yeah, this is another big topic, another story you might have seen. Fed up homeowner arrested after tense standoff with squatters stealing $1 million house she inherited from her parents. This is kind of a synopsis, just a quick synopsis video.
The police department doesn't have the lease?
No.
He's got no documentation.
It's just bills.
So Adele, you're getting arrested right now?
Being arrested
For what?
for being in my own home.
30 days. All they need to be in there. Horrible. It's terrible. That was the term. With all these stories running around, who in their right mind is going to want to be a landlord, right? Landlord. You've got a massive undersupply of housing in the United States. A massive. We're not going to be able to work our way out for years. So there's always going to be a pressure on housing, whether it's for purchase or for lease, for rent, whatever it might be. So, all these stories coming out, they're only putting pressure on rent going up. So all these laws on the books that essentially protect the professional grifters, protect the professional squatters, because that's what they are. That's what they are. The guy in the Bellevue landlord protest that I covered, he had done it before to another landlord in Bellevue, in Woodridge, I believe, in the neighborhood in Bellevue. So these guys know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're getting into. The landlord one in Bellevue, he did have a lease. And I think he paid some rent at the beginning, but then he defaulted. And, it's just this super messy process that the legit landlord, who has been a serious advocate for his own rights, has just been going after everything. And eventually he came up with, hey, let's do a protest. And so you can see in that video, but, they went ahead and put pictures up of the deadbeat tenant. You got, great images of that. They shamed him. They called out with a loudspeaker in Korean, because the dude's Korean. You're basically a, no pay, no stay kind of thing. Just, hey, you're a criminal. What you're doing is criminal. Calling these people out for what they're doing. But in this case, because the big home here in Beverly Hills, the owner is, he's got a massive judgment against him, and he's taken off to Lebanon. He just doesn't care. Company filed bankruptcy. Everything has just gone, right in the crapper. Somebody said that they named their toilet after San Francisco. So I was going to say his business just went right in the San Francisco, or right in the Tenderloin, right? So if I use that reference down the road, you'll know. Right in the Tenderloin, just right there. So what you're seeing is you're seeing more and more of these instances happening, because squatters know that they can get away with it. They can certainly get away with it for a certain amount of time. Now, the interesting thing about this one is that they were basically treating the squatted home as a business income source. Hey, let's rent it out. Let's get in there. Let's do some squatting and we'll rent it out. I mean, it's kind of ingenious, because everybody knows, especially in a state like California, the laws have shifted so hard to cover the tenants that now it's a nightmare for people to get these tenants out. You've got all these matrix of information that you got to go through. All right, they've been there more than 60 days. They've been there more than 30 days. They've been there more than 5 years, whatever it might be. And eventually they're going to have to hire an attorney. The real owners of the property are going to have to hire an attorney and battle it out in court. And that costs thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And oftentimes these serial squatters, these deadbeat tenants, they'll find some organization that believes their sob story. I just can't find work after, the pandemic. So, but yeah, ignore my 2 brand new cars in the driveway. That is literally what the deadbeat tenant said in the Bellevue landlord protest that I showed. So you're seeing more and more of these cases, and you're seeing more and more of landlords having to address them. I did a podcast yesterday, and it was how where was it? It was Las Vegas, city of Las Vegas. There's a big apartment complex ownership that has literally a squad of dudes that go through, and basically they've got this routine where they're going to an apartment, and it's like the sheriff going in, but it's this private group of SWAT team that goes in and takes these squatters and just tosses them out. Just literally gets all their stuff and boom, go out. So yeah, you've got big companies resorting to SWAT team tactics to pull people out. Once these professional grifters get in, they're in. They're going to hunker down. They're not going anywhere. The longer that they can stay there, that's less rent they got to pay elsewhere. That's more time that they've got to charge per bedroom. That's more time that they've got to charge per head for the big house parties that they're doing. I mean, the whole thing is just ridiculous. And what it comes down to is a bunch of lax liberal laws in cities that are meant to protect the tenant. And in reality, all it's doing is just driving up rent, because who in the world is going to want to rent their house out with this kind of thing going on? I mean, who's going to want to do that, knowing that this is your exposure? So you're seeing a lot of landlords push back. That is very interesting to see. You're starting to see more and more of these stories. Hey, this happened. And this kind of thing's been going on forever. But because the laws have gone so far one-sided, remember during the pandemic, it was like, landlords should cover the rent for all tenants because landlords can go to the bank and get a loan. They went to the bank and got a loan, or they paid cash for that property. So, they've got more options than the tenant. They should pay all of the bills. That was literally the narrative during the pandemic. And then we had, moratoriums and just eviction moratoriums and you name it, all one-sided to the tenant. And now you're starting to see some of these cases finally get squared away. And the landlords are having to go to some pretty extreme lengths to get their properties back, and they take them back and they're damaged. And all of this, all it does is drive up rent. There's an undersupply, folks. There's an undersupply. And in these cities that have these kind of laws on the books that really, really protect the squatters, protect the professional grifters, those are the areas where you're not going to see a turnaround. So this is just going to keep on going. There's no way that this gets better because, to protect the rights of the landlord. Geez, good Lord. That sounds pretty Republican. I mean, property rights and such. Oh, we can't have that. I mean, that's not very democratic liberal thinking. We can't have that. At the Bellevue, I keep talking about the Bellevue protest. At the Bellevue protest, it was really interesting. And a representative from the Redmond, Microsoft, city council came and he said, I'm a Democrat, but, right from wrong is a both party thing. And what is happening in so many of these cases is just straight up wrong. It's squatters and grifters taking advantage of a situation. And this one in particular was because it was in limbo, in ownership, in the court system. And guy took advantage of it and he took him for a ride. I mean, did he make a couple $100,000? Probably, right? I don't know. I don't know how many parties he threw. It sounds like those were some epic parties, right? I mean, that sounds like some fun times. I mean, you had some people jumping into the pool. I mean, it was views for days. Crazy people on drugs running around. People wobbling down the street. The neighbor said they're wobbling. Yeah, that's what a bunch of drugs and getting cross-faded will do to you, right? All right. So that does it for this one. Thank you so much for being here. I'll catch you on the next one. Love to have you as a subscriber. Do all that good YouTube stuff. And I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.